The stone cracked and crumbled into dust, though not a single battering ram had touched it. Giant towers, which for centuries had held the defense of the desert, simply subsided into the earth. 1 second, the city's inhabitants felt completely safe behind a double ring of walls. The next, a chasm opened before them, and thousands of Israelite warriors were rushing in. No siege engines, no tunnels, and no long months of assault. Only the piercing blast of trumpets and a shout that tore through the silence of Canaan. This was the finale of the most extraordinary military operation in history. An army of former slaves brought down the mightiest fortress of its time, using a strategy that defied all laws of warfare. Jericho stood at the entrance to the land as a massive obstacle. As long as this city remained intact, the path forward stayed closed. It was a masterpiece of fortification. 2 parallel walls, as high as a multi-story building, with deep foundations and ironclad gates. The stone was so massive that traditional attack methods of that era were useless against it. The Israelites had just crossed the Jordan River. They had no heavy weaponry or engineers to build siege mechanisms. Before them stood a city prepared for long-term isolation. Inside were its own supplies of water and grain, enough to last for years. The defenders of Jericho looked down at the Israelites from the walls without a trace of fear. But Joshua, the leader of the people, received a plan that did not involve a single strike against the wall. Instead of trying to break down the gates, the people were commanded simply to walk. It was to be a march that would undermine the very confidence of the enemy in their safety. But before the army moved forward, a secret operation took place that determined the fate of one family inside the doomed city. Joshua sent 2 spies to Jericho to gauge the enemy's morale. The spies stayed at the house of a woman named Rahab. Her house was unique. It was built directly into the massive city wall, with windows facing the outside of the fortress. When the king of Jericho learned about the strangers and sent soldiers to capture them, Rahab took a deadly risk. She hid the Israelite spies on the roof under stalks of flax and misled the pursuit, saying the men had already left the city. She did this because the fear of the Israelite people and their God had already paralyzed Jericho. Before helping the spies escape, Rahab made a pact with them. "I have saved your lives. Promise me that you will save mine when your army takes the city." The spies gave their oath. They instructed her to gather her entire family inside the house and to tie a sign, a scarlet cord, to the window that looked out from the wall. That very night, the spies lowered themselves down the fortress wall using this cord and returned to camp. The scarlet fabric remained hanging on the stone, waiting for the assault. The command was strict. The entire army was to circle the city once a day for 6 days. In the lead were selected warriors, followed by 7 priests with trumpets made of rams' horns. Then the Ark of the Covenant was carried, and after it followed all the people. The main condition was absolute silence. No one was to make a single sound, except for the priests who blew the trumpets monotonically. Only the sound of the trumpets and the thud of thousands of feet were heard, kicking up clouds of dust around the city. This was heavy psychological pressure. The guard on the walls had prepared arrows and stones, waiting for the start of the assault. But instead of a battle, they saw an endless, silent column. Day after day. The first day, the circle was completed. The army went back to camp. The second day, the same. By the third day, the laughter on the walls vanished. This silence weighed on the defenders more heavily than any shouts. They did not understand what was happening, and this uncertainty exhausted their nerves. For 6 days in a row, the Israelites simply walked circle after circle around their enemy's fear. On the 7th day, the schedule changed. The army rose before sunrise. This time, they did not limit themselves to one circle. They began to go around the city again and again, 7 times in one day. The tension in the air became so thick that it seemed it was about to explode. The sentries on the walls watched in complete numbness. The army did not stop. The 3rd circle, the 5th, the 6th. The pace of the march became sharper, and the sound of the trumpets ever more piercing. It resembled a giant mechanism reaching full power before the final strike. Finally, the 7th circle ended. Tens of thousands of people stopped at their positions and froze. A brief but incredibly intense pause followed. The priests raised the trumpets to their lips. Joshua gave the signal, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." And then a sound tore through the silence that changed everything. The shout of hundreds of thousands of people together with the trumpets created such a wave of energy that the walls of Jericho could not withstand it. The stone began to break, and the walls collapsed into themselves. Giant blocks that were meant to stand for centuries turned into ruins. The path into the city became open from all sides at once. The Israelite troops entered Jericho instantly. The city was taken without a single chance for defense. All precious metals were collected for the general treasury, and the city itself was given over to fire. Jericho turned into ashes. Amidst the general chaos and destruction, only one section of the fortification wall remained intact. The piece of the wall where the Scarlet fort hung stood unmoved. The spies immediately rushed to this tower and brought Rahab and her entire family out to safety, fulfilling their oath. She became the sole survivor of the destroyed city, and her story became forever intertwined with the destiny of Israel. Joshua placed a ban on rebuilding this place, making it a symbol of the defeat of those who relied only on the thickness of stone walls. It was a lesson for all surrounding nations. No fortress can protect if it is faced by endurance, discipline, and faith. The story of Jericho is a narrative about discipline and the ability to wait for one's time. They could have rushed into an assault on the first day and suffered heavy losses. But the Israelites had the patience to remain silent for 6 days, so that their shout on the 7th day would have the power to destroy stone. Today, the ruins of Jericho testify to how quickly any impregnability can vanish. It teaches us to continue our path, even when we are looked down upon. Your endurance and a timely, decisive surge are capable of tearing down obstacles that today seem completely immovable. Thank you for spending these minutes with us. If this story was useful to you, like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, as we continue to discover the events that changed the world.